Hello, everyone. Welcome to my podcast on product leadership in 2021. Today, I am joined by Petra Wille. She is an independent product leadership coach, and she recently published a book, Strong Product People. And she has been working on helping product teams boost their skill sets and up their game since 2013. And she is also part of the Mind the Product in Hamburg, Germany. Petra, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today, and thank you very much for that. And all over to you. Please tell us a little bit more about you.
Anup, thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here today. Yeah, what should I add to this introduction? You already mentioned most of the things that I'm doing. As you were saying, I'm a product leadership coach. That's what I'm focusing on the last few years. I'm mainly working with product leaders and help them to get better in what they actually do. And for me, it's always like, okay, becoming a better leader in the product sense. So are we building the right thing? How good are the discovery skills of my team, all these kind of things, then how good are our processes in a way that am I helping the people to actually do their job, or am I actually putting obstacles in their way? So that is a bit of the work we're doing. And then a lot of the work is obviously focusing on the people development part of the product leader job, because I think this is an aspect that often is neglected. And so that is something that I usually always bringing to the coaching sessions. And most of the leads really resonate with the topic and say like, yeah, that's something that I always wanted to invest more time in, but I always struggle because where to start? It's such a big topic, so where to start? And that's what I helping them with. And after doing this for several years, at some point I just thought it's nice to write a book about it and put some of my best practices in the hands of many more people. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's kind of interesting. So when I came across your book, and it struck me that it's very different. Not many people talk about building this product team and product people development. Um, what I read mostly is technical aspects of product management. So your book is very different. So just curious, like how you found the value in creating or writing about people development, or having that people focus, not the product focus, but the people focus in the product teams. That's kind of very interesting.
Yeah, I think all product managers at some stage in their career realize that it's not so much about their hard skill if they're successful or not. It's more about what we call soft skills. And it sounds like skills of lesser value, but they're not just because they're soft. So it's all this emotional intelligence, and how good am I in communication and in networking within my company and in bonding with my stakeholders and all these kind of things, right? Um, so I never ever saw a successful product manager without honing some of the skills of this more like soft skill things. Um, but it's often takes product people too long to realize that and to really improve and develop these skills. So that's why I think it's so valuable if product leaders actually start to look into this, because they really can boost the output of their teams as well if they focus a bit more on the soft skill part and on the people development of their job, and not only focusing on the hard facts and the hard skills. So that's why I'm focusing on this topic a lot, because it's just like that's where a big lever is. So that's where we have a lot of potential, usually untapped. And that's a lot of the coaching I do focus on these topics. And that's why I thought it needs to be part of a book, or make a whole book in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you that product management is mostly about the soft skills and less about the hard skills. Of course, hard skills can uh, help you focus on particular segment of product management domain. But in general, it's an highly collaborative role where you are
Yeah.
moving across all functional areas. and it needs soft skills. But in terms of um, getting used to, I mean, what I mean to say is like, how would you say that the product management people or leaders can build these teams? So what are the different steps that they can take to hone these soft skills in their team?
Yeah. Um, yeah. Now I'm not maybe not only talking about the soft skills, but what I'm writing in the book about is, first of all, every product leader should start to create their own compass, or how I call it in the book, their definition of good. Because most of the product leaders I meet, if I ask them, hey, how are you, what are your expectations towards your team, right? So is other it's outspoken expectations. So have you ever walked your product managers through this? Okay, look, this is my expectation. That's the personality traits I'm looking for. That's the skills. That's the capabilities I'm looking for. That's the values you hopefully bring to the table and to the team, and that's the value that are valuable to me, for example. So all these kind of things are, is this something you have written down somewhere and really reflected on? And most of the product leaders haven't. In some companies there are role descriptions. Some companies say like, yeah, we have it, it's in the job descriptions on our website, but that's not what I'm talking about. So this is more the thing of, do you think as a product leader, user interview skills is something each and every product person on your team should be having? Yes or no? It's a pretty easy question, but it's hard for most of the product leads to answer because they never ever made the time to sit down and really reflect on all these aspects. And some years back, I was at the exact same spot, so I totally know the drill. And it is a lot of work to do this initial, what do I expect from a competent product manager? So how do I define a competent product manager? And that's why I created my own framework for that. It's even not part of the book. We're touching upon it, but it's like published on my website. It's for free. Everybody can use it. It's called the PM Wheel. And that is a framework for assessing skills and in product management. And I strongly encourage leaders, if they fear the blank page, they could use mine, but I strongly encourage them to create their own version of it and really see, because not all the things I'm talking about may be something that your role or your context or your industry requires. So yeah, but that's something I always encourage product leaders to do first. So what is your definition of a good product manager? And from there, it's all about make this known to the people you're managing and then help them assessing themselves. So it's not so much about you are assessing all the people on your team and you're telling them how they're doing. It's more like giving them a tool for self-reflection, maybe a tool with they can go to their QA colleagues or design colleagues, their engineering colleagues, their agile coach colleagues, and get some feedback. And how do you see me in my daily work? Do you think that's something I can do well, or do I need to learn more about this particular topic? So that is the next step. And then you have an identified gap here and there. And then you could create a development plan. And that's something I talk in the book about as well. So how are you creating these development plans? How do you make sure to follow up on these ones in your one-on-ones? How do you actually have more of a coaching session and lesser of this update one-on-ones that we're usually having with our product managers? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good take on how one should look at the product management. And I did read the book, and I know the PM will that you just talked about, and it's kind of an interesting way of looking at the whole picture of a product management person. You know, kind of figuring out on whether I'm understanding the problem, am I able to find a solution, uh, do I need some planning? And yeah, so it's kind of an interesting way of looking the performance or the development in that PM will.
Yeah.
And I would definitely encourage the audience to take a look at it since it's available on the website, and maybe they can take some inspiration from that. Yeah. So when we talk about the agile development, when I was talking to, I talked to a couple of product leaders, and one of them kind of mentioned that agile is in a way misleading in some ways, because it talks about making frequent changes, testing out those small iterations, and then improvising as you move on. And with that process, there is a chance that you lose out on the vision of the product, because you're making your team involved into small iterations, and the team may lose focus on the broader vision of the product. uh, what is your understanding on that? What is your experience in?
Yeah, my take on that is a bit, I think for all of us working in product, we sometimes struggle with some of the agile rules and rituals and all the things we're reading about agile because of in the beginning when a lot of this, for example, the agile manifesto was written and all these kind of things, product was a thing but not a big one. So it just started to grow. It was a small seed, and so it is not something that is baked into the DNA of all these agile frameworks, right? So the product owner, so to say, is just a random person who creates a prioritized list of things. But how these things are coming to this backlog, that is not something that most of the agile books are talking a lot about, right? So the product management part of it is largely missing, I'd say. So that's why we sometimes struggle with the connect between product management as we know it, or as we would like to practice it, as you were highlighting it, with a vision and goals and a North Star metric and all the impact we want to make and these kind of things, the behavior changes on the user side that we want to see and influence, and all these kind of things. But I think if you acknowledge, so first of all, you have to acknowledge that agile and, for example, Scrum, it's just not talking a lot about how to come up with this meaningful things that you want to put on a backlog, right? So it's just a totally different story. It's a different job, and you need both things, I think, to not lose sight when you're sailing the boat around on the ocean. So you still need to know where to go, and you still need to know why you're going there, because otherwise the journey might be long and not so fun. So yeah, I think we need both of these things. I'm totally a fan of agile methodologies. I really strongly believe in iterations and in learning along the way. That is the important thing, I think, as a product person, that you keep the flexibility of learning as you go. But for sure, you need to know why you're actually making this effort and where you're headed to. And that is for sure not something that is written precisely how to do this in all the agile frameworks and methodology books.
Yeah, that's true, because they mostly focus, I mean, as I said, your book makes it kind of unique is because it doesn't talk about the technicality of the product management, agile management, and things like that. It talks more about how you build your team and make a strong product team uh, for your company and build a culture accordingly. um, Now, if you're talking about this product vision, goals, and not letting it kind of diluted with the agile development, communication is going to play a crucial role in it, right? In the current times, 2021, where we are kind of still recovering from last year. uh,
Germany is still in the middle of everything. We're not recovering,
yeah,
but
yeah,
we're getting there.
yeah. Probably 2021 is going to remain so, and so it poses its own challenge, right? I mean, all the product
Yeah.
companies, uh, they want to have that collaboration as they used to have before COVID. Now teams are not able to share the same whiteboard, and it's email communication, or they might use certain tools like Miro, but still it is not same as in-person communication. And in these situations, the communication becomes a challenge. um, what is your advice to the product leaders on how they can help their team focus on the broader product vision?
So far, my experience is not that the people are losing sight of the greater product vision, if there is one. There still are many companies that just don't have one. But if there is one, the problem is not so much that they're losing sight of the greater vision. Um, the problem, the bigger problem is that the team loses some of its team-like spirit, right? Because you're just like sitting at home in your home office, and you're not sure if it's like 10 people on this boat or two, or if it's 10 sailing boats sailing in parallel, or so that is more or less the problem that I see. So they're still rather focused on what they want to achieve, but it feels a bit more alone, and more like, am I the only person actually wanting to go to this port over there, or is there anybody coming with me? So I think it is spend a lot more time with your employees and peers and colleagues than you normally would, and just do a lot of this casual, how are you doing? Are you currently struggling? Let me understand why you're struggling. Taking it a bit more easy, going slower. I think that is the key currently. So everybody needs a bit more room to be a human being, not just like a product person. It's always a good thing to have human beings around in your company, I know. But in these days, I think we should share some more of our struggles, and be more upfront with, hey, I have not finished this just because of, I still know that we want to go there, and I still know when we want to do it, but it's just a tough time. Um, yeah, and what I see, so a lot of the companies have actually benefited in some sort of form, because they have been kind of remote, or at least some team members have always been kind of remote, and now everybody is remote, and that makes things easier for some of the teams that I'm kind of working with over the last 2 to 3 years.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. You put it very interestingly that people want to know that, should I go onto this boat? Is anyone else coming onto my boat? And yeah.
Yeah, it's really harder to form allies, for example. That is what teams usually do in a decision making process, right? If you would be in the office, you would have the sense of, okay, that's the team A who think we should be going in this direction, and that's team B, and they think we should go into this direction. So even without talking to each other, you get the sense of how are we currently doing, and if we would actually call a vote, what this vote would be by my team. And this is something that is super hard to sense when everybody is remote, sitting in their own offices. So we need to put a bit more effort in talking to each other these days, I'd say.
Yeah. So I think that's a good point. And in general, what is the advice you give to the product leaders who uh, want to make a better decisions for their team, for the culture, or in general for their customers in improving their products? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, so for me, it really is create this definition of good. So what makes a competent product manager in your context? Because if you do this once, you could use it for the years to come. And you can use it for hiring decisions. You could use it for one-on-one coaching situations, for performance reviews, even to put people on a PIP or something like this, if that is necessary, right? And you could always use the same framework, and that feels so different to your team if they know what your expectations are. And if you really don't only tell them, hey, you should get better, because then it changes, and you can actually tell them what better could look like. So these are the aspects I think you could get better at. I'm here to help. I will coach you through. And then it's kind of help them to create a little contract with themselves. So what is their development plan? What is the actions they should be taking to actually learn something new, or to apply something to learn a new skill, all these kind of things. And that should be not for the sake of learning. It should be really for the sake of bringing your team forward, having better product people on your team. And that's more or less the one thing that I usually want to highlight when talking about the book and talking to product leads.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. The definition of good, it kind of is a very interesting way to look at it, and making yourself focused as well, as a product leader, to to
Yeah. And
to
there is another nice trick which I call the next bigger challenge. So I really like if product leads think about, okay, what could be the next bigger challenge for each one on my team? And sometimes it's just like, okay, this junior person now could maybe onboard the next junior person, or the senior product manager doing this one product well now may want to work on a more strategic product we're having over there. So, but that's always a nice question for product leads. Create a list, write down all the names of the people of your team, and then think about what could be their next bigger challenge.
nice. Yeah. All right, Petra, it was wonderful talking to you, and definitely appreciate you taking the time for this. And I know you must be busy with many projects. And
Pleasure was all mine. So thanks for inviting me, Anup.
yeah, all right. Thank you so much, Petra.
Thank you.